because you can support it, and 2, if your army gets completely wiped out, you can rebuild a lot of units at once, because right now you only have the capacity to 4 at once, plus whatever it takes for your robo to put one out. Okay, so right here, what happened? You started, maybe it was because of a scan, I don't know why, but you started walking over here, and as soon as his tanks hit you, you should have been moving your army away as soon as that happened. Maybe you weren't looking at the screen at that moment. You pulled it away pretty soon, but a little bit sooner. What's really going to help with that is you really should have your entire army on a hotkey. So you should select all your army and put them on one of these hotkeys. There's a lot to use that way. You can easily just press the number, you've got your whole army there, and move it away. And up until this point, I've been saying little things like, you haven't been getting your upgrades, you could have expanded earlier, minerals could have been transferred a bit better so you'd have more. But overall, those things aren't what lost you the game. Obviously, getting a better tech earlier on would have, as well as those upgrades, and having more minerals would have meant that you could have produced more units, because he's doing very poorly on his macro. But this is what really lost you the game. So if we look at the army here, you've got a commanding lead. You've got 2,500 or almost 2,600 more units resource-wise than him. And, okay, so you've already lost 300 worth of units, and that's your 2 observers. But now, if we watch this battle, I'm going to cringe. Ugh. You just run straight up into his siege tanks. Thankfully, you had the bigger army. Okay, you're still going to win, but look at the units lost. Just a manslaughter. Now you start to catch up, obviously, as you kill off the rest of his army, but still, you're suddenly 900 behind him in resources. So that really sucks. But I do like to see that you're putting some aggression on now that you know you killed his main army and you still have a large force. But this is what really hurts right here, is why do you keep moving over here when you're getting sieged and a bunker? Away, please. If you had not done that, if you had, as soon as you got the first siege tank shell, if you had kept your whole army over here away from there, you would have just saved yourself about 1,000 resources worth of units, which is huge. But again, you have way more economy than him, so you're still in pretty good shape, right? So you put out a Robo Bay. I would like to comment on this. First of all, I'll just say I like the fact that you got Zealot Charge. I like Zealot Charge, and I still don't see, well, soon you're going to put 2 more gateways there, which is good. There we go. Now you queued them up. I like the fact that you're getting some more gateways. I would have liked to seen those gateways sooner, and another Robo. As well, I would have liked to seen all these extra workers transferred here, and this is the time when you want a new base. But getting back to this now, your Robo Bay, I really don't like the fact that you've gone Colossi against tanks have a range of 13. Colossi with upgrades have a range of 9. They're way too expensive to be cost efficient against Colossi. Your Immortals, having a few Immortals in the front is definitely going to help. If you position those Immortals in the front, he's probably not going to be good enough to micro his tanks to shoot your other units, so he'll probably start hitting the Immortals first, which will give your army a much better chance. So I really would like to see another Robo and getting a few Immortals out. Of course, you can always go for air to counter these tanks. You can do Phoenixes to lift them up, which is extremely hard, and I usually fail when I try and do that. Or you can try Void Rays, because Void Rays are still a very good option. But I love that you're double expanding. Love that. That's awesome. Your macro's slipping a little bit, though. You got, all of these are ready to go, and you've got resources, but, not the worst thing in the world. And of course, this is the biggest problem with your macro. But, then again, comparing yourself to your opponent, your army's still a lot bigger. You're still doing better than him. And for your level of play, I would say that you're still doing a pretty good job. You're doing a lot of things right, or at least you're attempting to do a lot of things right. So, great job on all of that. Now, really, the Colossi, though, wasn't the best choice. And high temps, because usually with Protoss, what you either want to do is you either want to go air, High Templars, or Colossi, or air and a combination of Templars or Colossi. And I really would have liked to have seen you go Templars against these Marines, get out some more Mortals because of the tanks, and then just, have a big army as well. The Zealots with charge will be quite useful, especially after you storm, because they'll be able to get within range of those tanks very soon, so that those tanks can't deal that damage to them, because tanks, of course, once they're sieged, they can't shoot anything that's too close to them, so anything that's surrounding them, they can't attack while they're sieged. and you really want to abuse that fact. That's about the only way you're really going to be able to win against tanks, or abuse the fact that they can't shoot air as long as they don't have anything else to protect. Now, you've got a couple of forward pylons out here to warp units into, that's good. I would have liked to have seen some up here as well. This would have allowed you to flank his army whenever he's up here, and also made you closer to his base, a bit more mobile. But, you know, not the end of the world. Now, these Banshees come in and you're completely off guard. Where is your observer? Your observer is sitting here doing nothing. You could have thrown a probe at this Dalnaga and gotten way more useful information than this expensive observer. So really, I would like to see your observer following your army. If he doesn't have a Raven, I'd love to see it following his. That's the best thing, is to always have sight of his army, always know what it's doing, especially against siege tanks and Banshees and stuff. And then of course get out a third observer. So I really want to see 3 observers in your next game, sort of, just as a general rule of thumb. 1 following your army, 1 following his army, and then 1 can just do whatever else. As well as those upgrades I'd love to see next game as well. Okay. So right now your army still dominates his in size, so how can you possibly lose? Well, it's a thing called, if siege tanks get to shoot at you a whole bunch while you don't shoot at them, you lose. Yeah, really sucks. And you're getting Colossi, you left 1 back here. I don't think this would have won the game, but then again, always check. Don't leave expensive units sitting around doing nothing. And I think you've, oh no, you're not supply blocked. Okay. And the thing is though, these expansions are actually extremely vulnerable because you did not put pylons here. And you also have too many workers here, you should be moving them down to this one. But that's okay, you're focused on other things, you're trying to do other things right now. Like all of these workers, because you have way too many at this. But yeah, next time just put down some pylons at each expansion, that way you can take advantage of your warp gates. And really, I want to see more production facilities. At this point in the game, you really should have a lot more to be able to rebuild up your army as soon as it gets killed, and also to build one faster. Now, this observer patrolling here, I understand why you did it. I would not do it. I would leave it right around here. If he has a Raven, just leave it just out of range of the Raven. Otherwise, leave it right here over his army, because that will allow you to see his Banshees when they move out, and then you can follow them. And more importantly, it will allow you to see his siege tanks, so you can see when they're sieged and when they're not sieged, because you really don't want to go in when they're sieged. That is instant death. And I like that you backed up, but you didn't back up quite fast enough. You should have backed up a little bit faster from that, but that's okay. And see, if you had an observer right now, you could have rushed in as soon as he unsieged those. You could have come in, and his problem was he did not put his Marines in front to block you, so you could have gone in there and you could have easily killed 2 tanks, maybe 3, before they were sieged, and this battle would have been completely different. Or of course you could have tried to go in, snipe a couple, and then run out. There's always a possibility. Right here, not the best way to warp in units. When you're facing a much larger force than yours, warp your units back somewhere where they're safe and can't get attacked. That way you'll have a much larger army, because you can possibly wait for a second warp in before you go in and engage it. And of course, you had a ton of units down here. This might have made the difference in that battle. You know, so it just boils down to placement. You know, I said a few other things you did wrong, such as you have no upgrades, your tech decision, not having enough production buildings, and of course, you know, your probes, you're transferring them the best. But as for your skill level, I thought you did very well. And then it was just the army placement that killed you. Because if we look at the units lost, 5,500 more resources you had to spend on an army than him, and he still got this much of an army. So that's really why you lost, is those siege tanks. They're really annoying to go against. You really can't use that Colossi, Stalkers, Zealots, Sentry effectively at all, because the siege ranks just have so much range, and as long as they're being protected, like I've been slaughtered by siege tanks too many times to be happy about. So, you know, really it just comes down to, you really have to counter these siege tanks, and you have to be really creative or inventive to make sure that they're not getting free hits on your army, or that you outnumber them 10 to 1. You know, that always works, but that's very expensive, as we can see. It won you the first battle, but it didn't win you the game. Okay, hope that helps you, hope that gives you something to play with, and really, really think hard about this unit placement when you're playing against Terran in the future, and they've got siege tanks out.